I just bought a new console, guys. All of these. But what games should I get? What are the best games for every console? I don't want to make that mistake I made with the Wii U and accidentally buy Star Fox Guard. Huh. Where can I find this information? Maybe I should just watch some YouTube. Okay. Hello everybody, Glowstone here, and welcome to the top 10 games per each console. We're looking at the top 10 games per console. So for the Xbox, we'll be looking at the top 10 games for that, the Wii U, Wii, Switch, Xbox One S, whatever Metacritic has, because this is going to be my Metacritic. It's not going to be my list. Because if it was going by my list, you'd know you'd be seeing a lot of this, and this. So we're going to be looking at the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, Wii U, 3DS, PS Vita, iOS, Stadia, Xbox Series X, and PlayStation 5. And this video came out April 13th, 2021. So, yeah, you know when I'm making this. This is basically going to be like a little review. I'm going to be talking about the games that are featured on here and seeing if I think that they should be rated this high or not. Okay, let's start with the PS4. I think this is a good idea to start with. I actually changed it just right now to the top 5 because top 10 will take way too long with how many consoles we have to go through. PS4 has God of War. His vengeance against the gods of Olympus far behind him, Kratos now lives as the man in the lands of Norse gods and monsters. It is in the harsh, unforgiving world that he must fight to survive, and teach his son to do the same. As a mentor and protector to his son determined to earn his respect, Kratos is faced with an unexpected opportunity to master the rage that has long defined him. Questioning the dark lineage has passed on to his son. He hopes to make amends for the shortcoming of his past. Set within the untamed forests, mountains, and realms of Norse lore, God of War features a distinctly new setting where its own pantheon of creatures, monsters, and gods. And the game smells good. God of War has a Metascore of 94 and a user score of 9.2. Number 4, The Last of Us Remastered. The Last of Us has a rebuilt for the PlayStation 4 system, now featuring full 1080p, high-resolution character models, improved shadows and lighting, in addition to several other gameplay improvements. 20 years after a pandemic has radically changed unknown civilization. Infects humans run wild, and survivors are killing each other for food, weapons, whatever they can get their hands on. Joel, a violent survivor, is hired to smuggle a 14-year-old girl, Ellie, out of an oppressive military quarantine zone. But what starts a small job soon transforms to a brutal journey across the U.S. The Last of Us Remastered includes the Abandoned Territories map pack, Reclaimed Territories map pack, and the critically acclaimed The Last of Us Left Behind single-player campaign that combines themes of survival, loyalty, and love with tense survival action gameplay. Remaster features explore a brutal post-pandemic world fully realized with the power of PlayStation 4 system. It includes additional game content over $30 in value. Delve into Ellie's past left behind, the single-player prequel chapter, 8 new multiplayer maps on the Abandoned and Reclaimed Territories pack. Remastered has a Metascore of 95 and a user score of 9.2. Number 3, Persona 5 Royal. Prepare for an all-new RPG experience in Persona 5 Royal based on the universe of an award-winning series, Persona. Don't mask of Joker and join the Phantom Thieves of Hearts. Break free from the chains of modern society and stage grand heists to infiltrate the minds of the corrupt and make them change their ways. Persona 5 Royal is packed with new characters, confidence, story, depth, new locations to explore, and a new grappling hook mechanic for stealthy access to new areas. With a new semester at Shujin Academy, get ready to strengthen your abilities as a metaverse in your daily life. Persona 5 Royal presents the unique visual style, and award-nominated composer Shoji Meguro returns with an all-new soundtrack. Explore Tokyo, unlock new personas, customize your own personal thieves' den, discover a new, never-before-seen story arc, cutscenes, alternate endings, and more. Even for the most seasoned Phantom Thieves among us, Persona 5 is a new challenge. Persona 5 Royal has a Metascore of 95 and a user score of 4.8. Number 2 is Grand Theft Auto 5. The sprawling, sun-soaked metropolis of Los Angeles is chock full of self-help coaches, starlights, and C-list celebrities. Once on top of the media world and are struggling to stay relevant in time of an economic malaise and lowest common denominator is reality TV. Amidst the madness, the unique criminals plan their own chances of survival and success. Franklin, a street-level hustler in search of opportunities and serious money, and a couple other people that go do dangerous heists, exploring, trying to get money. Grand Theft Auto 5 has a Metascore of 97 and a user score of 4.8. And the number 1 is Red Dead Redemption 2. Developed by the creators of Grand Theft Auto 5, Red Dead Redemption 2 is an epic tale of life in America's unforgiving heartland. The game's vast and atmospheric world almost provides the foundation for a brand new online multiplayer experience. America, 1899. The end of the Wild West era has begun. After a robbery goes badly in the western town of Blackwater, Arthur Morgan and the Van der Linde gang are forced to flee. With federal agents on the best bounty hunters nation missing at their heels, the gang has to rob, steal, and fight their way across the rugged heartlands in America in order to survive. As deepening internal fissures threaten to tear the gang apart, Arthur must make a choice between his own ideals and loyalty to the gang that raised him. Red Dead Redemption 2 has a Metascore of 97 and a user score of 8.5. And that does it for PlayStation 5. All of these games could be considered the best games on the PlayStation 4. Now let's take a look at a console that I actually have, an Xbox One. Coming in at number 5 is Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 has a Metascore of 9.3 and a user score of 8.6. And number 4 is Celeste. Celeste has a Metascore of 94 and a user score of 7.3. At number 3 is Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain has a Metascore of 95 and a user score of 7.4. And number 2 is Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto 5 has a Metascore of 97 and a user score of 7.9. And the number 1 is Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 has a Metascore of 97 and a user score of 7.9. That's it for the Xbox One. And surprisingly, I don't have any of these games. Let's switch things up and do a bit more Nintendo-y stuff. And number 5 is Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Ori and the Will of the Wisps has a Metascore of 93 and a user score of 8.8. And number 4 is Hades. Hades has a Metascore of 93 and a user score of 9.0. And number 3 is Divinity 2 Original Sin Definitive Edition. Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition has a Metascore of 93 and a user score of 8.5. And number 2 is Super Mario Odyssey. Super Mario Odyssey has a Metascore of 97 and a user score of 8.9. And the number 1 is The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild has a Metascore of 97 and a user score of 8.7. Skipping PC because it's not a console, we're going to go straight to the Wii U, the most forgettable console of all time. And number 5 is Bayonetta 2. Bayonetta 2 has a Metascore of 91 and a user score of 8.9. Number 4 is Rayman Legends. Rayman Legends has a Metascore of 92 and a user score of 8.7. Number 3 is Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. Super Smash Bros. For Wii U has a Metascore of 92 and a user score of 8.9. And number 2 is Super Mario 3D World, my favorite game ever. And in first place is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I just talked about this one, so let's move on. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild got a Metascore of 96 and a user score of 8.3. Let's move on to the 3DS now. I think that is a perfect system to go into. There was a lot of great games on here. Let's just see what we got. In fifth place is Super Mario 3D Land. Super Mario 3D Land has a Metascore of 90 and a user score of 4.8. Number 4 is Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight has a Metascore of 90 and a user score of 8.3. Number 3 is The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds has a Metascore of 90 and a user score of 9.0. Number 2 is Fire Emblem Awakening. Fire Emblem Awakening has a Metascore of 92 and a user score of 9.1. And number 1 is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time 3D. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D has a Metascore of 94 and a user score of 9.0. Now I'm going to briefly go over the PlayStation Vita because I do not own one, and I looked over the games and none of them seem too very interesting. They don't have really high scores like in the higher 90s, mostly the lower 90s. Even like the top 5 are in the 80s, so I think I'm just going to briefly talk about the top 5. Number 5 is Little Big Planet PS Vita with the score of 88. Number 4 is Rayman Origins with the score of 88. And number 3 is Spelunky with the score of 88. Seriously, these all have 88s for some reason. Number 2 is Velocity 2X with the score of 90. And number 1 is obviously Persona 4 Golden with the score of 93. And I'm going to do the same thing with the iOS things because I literally know none of these games. Like, the only one I've heard about is the number 1 slot. So, like, I don't even know. So I'm just going to go over them briefly, just like PlayStation Vita. Number 5 is Meteor Fall Journey with the play score of 95. Number 4 is The World Ends With You Solo Remix for iPad with a score of 95. Number 3 is Super Quick Hook with a score of 96. Number 2 is World of Goo with a score of 96. And the number 1 is World of Goo HD, which is a score of 96. Now, I get why they put World of Goo HD on here, because if you make Grape and you make Grape HD, everyone's going to love Grape HD. But those are basically the exact same games, and they're on the exact same hardware. Why didn't they, like, just combine the two or something? Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with the Stadia, because who likes the Stadia? But I'm going to come back. We have the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, which I will do the full review thing of that. But the Stadia, it has the top 5 is, like, has a meta score of like 40 something, so yeah, these games are really bad. And number 5 is Pixel Junk Raiders with a meta score of 49. Number 4 is Pac-Man Mega Tunnel Battle with the with 67. Number 3, Orcs Must Die. Why you have to be so mean to the orcs? Has a meta score of 73. Meta score? Yeah, Metascore. That seems really weird to say. Number 2 is Super Bomberman R Online with a Metascore of 80. And number 1 is Get Packed with a Metascore of 81. Okay, well, with those out of the way, now we're on to the big final 2, Xbox Series XS and the PlayStation 5. Now let's take a look at these games. At number 5 is Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition has a Metascore of 84 and a user score of 7.4. And number 4 is Hitman 3. Hitman 3 has a Metascore of 87 and a user score of 8.0. And number 3 is Tetris Effect Connected. Tetris Effect Connected has a Metascore of 88 and a user score of 7.6. And number 2 is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 has a Metascore of 89 and a user score of 5.5. Well, I guess they're only counting Metascores here. And the number 1 is It Takes Two. It Takes Two has a Metascore of 89 and a user score of 8.2. Well, that was for the Xbox Series X, and I'm not a fan of that console. I like the Xbox One, but the Xbox Series X, I gotta say, it isn't too great. And now let's move on to the PlayStation 5, which is basically the exact same thing as the Xbox Series X, but PlayStation. For the PS5, at number 5 is Disco Elysium: The Final Cut. Disco Elysium: The Final Cut has a Metascore of 88 and a user score of 7.3. And number 4 is It Takes Two, which we already talked about for the Xbox Series X, and it has a Metascore of 88 and a user score of 9.2. Number 3 is Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. That was also an Xbox Series X one on our list, so that gets a Metascore of 88 and a user score of 8.2. At number 2 is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, which is another one that we talked about. It received a 90 on Metascore and a user score of 6.8. And at number 1 is Demon's Souls. Demon's Souls has a Metascore of 92 and a user score of 7.9. And that's it. It's kind of weird because even though it says that it only has these, it has N64 right on here, and PlayStation. But the real question is, why do they have 4 Grand Theft Auto 4s on the top 10 list? And why 2 GTA 5s?